All right, many people ask, what is this Canadian way for education? And we are, in Canada, we are, I would say, a very considerate country. We really value good manners, proper behavior, respect for your parents, respect for your teachers, respect for each other, and respect for yourself. And in our program, we really try to do that. So when the children have finished with their activities, they're cleaning up. Somebody else doesn't come in and clean up after them. When they have their snack or their lunch, they clean that up. Somebody else doesn't come in and clean up after them. That's very unusual for some children, because in some countries, the children have maids or their parent cleans up after them, but once they're in our program, they have to assume that responsibility. So we are really stressing responsibility, because we feel in order to be a productive adult in the world, you're going to have to make some pretty important decisions, and you want to be able to do that independently. So we want children to be independent thinkers. We will frequently be asking them their opinion, and we value their opinion. And children will have different opinions, and every one of them is valued. And so if one child wants to disagree that their opinion is better, the teacher steps in as the mediator to say both opinions are wonderful. So in Canada, it's a very diverse country, and so we work very hard on becoming accepting of everybody, but also aware of your own self and accepting responsibility for yourself. Maple Bear Learning System, based on the Canadian education, is because Canada has had many years of French immersion. And so since we have perfected that, and I have to say, when I was in Canada going to school, we did not have French immersion, so I was not fortunate enough to be a student in that, but our youngest daughter was. And to this day, there's a huge difference as to how she knows her French and how I know my French. Because I have to think about it, I have to translate it in my head, and then I maybe will say something in French, where she just speaks French because it comes very natural to them. So we have many years of French immersion experience to draw on, and it's activity-based learning. Maple Bear's approach to science, math, literacy is all, again, activity-based, done by action. So in science, when you have the concept that you're studying, perhaps it's magnetism, then the teacher would go and bring in many objects that would relate to the unit on magnets, and they would do many activities related to that, reading stories about it, testing their magnets and seeing how they work. And then the children will report on that to the rest of the group. Perhaps depending on the age level, they might do a write-up about it, or they may draw pictures about what they've done. And then they'll be asked at the end, what did you learn when you did this? And we ask the children to tell us what they have learned. And that's how you find out what their knowledge is. It's not by a test. Math is hands-on, so they are using tangrams, blocks, unifix, cubes, all sorts of manipulatives so that they can build the shapes they're building. So instead of just learning pyramid, they're going to build a pyramid. Instead of just learning cube, they will make a cube. So it becomes something that's just second nature to them, because, I'm sorry I'm talking with my hands, but it is hands-on all the time. Literacy, Maple Bear has a huge number of books, and that list of books could be never ending because there's so much wonderful literature out there for children. We know sometimes it's more difficult for people in other countries to get those books, so that's why we have a specific list that people buy, and then our program, our curriculum is designed using those books so that the teacher, say you have a teacher in Mexico and they're doing a unit and they need to do a unit on snow, there's probably not very many English books on snow in Mexico. So on our list, there will be books that they buy ahead of time, and then the children have them in the classroom so they can use them. The teacher will also label the classroom. So the garbage can, the desk, the blocks, the centers, the books, there will be labels out. So if it's the library, a library sign will be put there. And that may seem, for somebody like me coming from an English background, well, why is that there? Well, of course, for the person who has English as their second language, that's an important way to learn that vocabulary. And even very, very young children learn to read that language just the way they do McDonald's. When you're in the street, you'll often drive with your child, a 2-year-old in the car, and the child will recognize McDonald's because it's so familiar. So that's what we do in our classroom, and the children soon recognize all of those things.